Growing up in the early 2000s was a time of transition. Retail stores were still carrying all the physical media you could dream of, but you could see the seeds of its eventual phase-out being planted. Blockbuster, which I spent many a Friday night at picking out stacks of DVDs for the weekend, had just shut its doors. I was still going to GameStop to barter with my old used games, but I was finally old enough to start adopting the PS3 and Xbox marketplaces. I can remember the first game I ever bought digitally on that store, which was Saints Row 4, and I can still remember the eureka moment I had when I realized I could buy and install this adult game from the comfort of my room, circumventing that annoying moment when a GameStop employee would list off the content in an M-rated game to your parents in hopes of dissuading them from buying it for a 13-year-old. And thanks, Dad, for ignoring those descriptions of GTA 4, because without that, I probably wouldn't have the deep love of games that I do today. Now, a lot has been said on this subject, usually coming from the perspective of console gaming, but I have a history with physical games that actually predates further back than this, and it takes the form of physical PC games. I feel like I'm a bit of an oddity here. Most people, including pretty much all of my friends, started off in the more accessible world of console gaming before then dipping their toes into the PC world. For me, though, my dad was always someone who was on the cutting edge of technology, and so I remember learning about computers very early on. So naturally, before ever getting a console, it was easier to just let me play games on the machine that we already had. The earliest physical PC game I can remember was a boxed copy of Scooby-Doo 2 Monster Unleashed, and boy does this look cursed. The Steam platform had existed since 2003, but believe it or not, there was a time when it wasn't fully adopted yet as the quintessential way to play PC games. Everyone knows how terrible Games for Windows Live was as DRM, but people might not remember that a ton of PC games had the Games for Windows tag at the top of the box, but it didn't necessarily mean it connected to the live service unless it was listed there. This was just a marker that meant it was Microsoft certified. And during this era, I had a ton of terrible movie tie-in games like Monsters vs. Aliens and Kung Fu Panda, as well as some of the earlier LEGO games like Batman and Indiana Jones. Like I said, being involved in gaming around this era, I got to watch in real time as things began to change. I started with remnants of the big box era of PC games, which I'll talk more about in a bit. I moved to the more streamlined Games for Windows packaging, then the early days of DRM with Games for Windows Live, and next the Steam era when it started to really gain its traction. In probably around 2012, I recalled hearing how great a little video game called Portal 2 was, and I was interested in giving it a try as a fan of the original. In my blissful ignorance about the state of things and how they were changing, I beckoned my dad to take me to GameStop to pick it up. I remember going in, seeing the cool box art, and being eager to take it home. This time, though, things worked a little different. There was still a disc, but underneath it was a code to redeem on Steam. I put it into my disk drive, and it took me to the application to redeem the digital key. Now, I had used Steam by this point, and I liked it, but what do you mean I have to activate it here? What if I had bought it used? Doing some research online now, the full game's data was still apparently on that disk, and you could install it that way, but you had to do weird trickery like turning off the Wi-Fi, because they really wanted you to start downloading through Steam. I thought that this was fine, but then what was the point of buying it the way I did? Unfortunately, from that point on, this became the standard. My copy of Fallout New Vegas that I got from Target did the same thing, and by then, it was harder to find these physical PC boxes in the store anyway. I remember getting my hands on the beautiful Elder Scrolls Anthology set that I still have and adore as a collectible item. But again, the discs served no purpose since they activated digitally. I also want to talk about this PC box set that I had called Star Wars: The Best of PC. What an absolutely legendary compilation. It contained Knights of the Old Republic, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Battlefront 1, Republic Commando, Empire at War, and even a 14-day trial for Galaxies. All of this squeezed into a cool box and a couple of DVDs. I have so many incredible memories with this set, And it wouldn't be a stretch to say it was a pivotal item in making me interested in so many of the things that I am today. I didn't have the kind of internet access that people do now, and so this basically introduced me to role-playing games, strategy games, MMOs, and all of these different things that I didn't even know existed before. I'm not the first to say it, but discovering KOTOR was legitimately transformational for the kind of storytelling and character building it exposed me to at a young age. It was unlike anything I had seen before. I didn't know that kind of thing could come out of a video game. But anyway, I apologize for the nerd out. The point is that I discovered this simply because I saw a cool box on a shelf in a store and brought it home with me. A lot of people will use the argument that digital is bad because you don't truly own the product. And I absolutely agree. But it's more than that. DVDs and plastic can degrade as well. Even though I still own a lot of my physical games from the past, there's no guarantee that those discs will be fully functional 30 years from now, in the same way people worry about digital platforms pulling games. As much as I'm an old man shouting at the clouds, digital is the future for a reason. Internet speeds are faster now than reading from a disc could ever be. I have all my games lined up in one nice application. You can buy whatever you want, whenever you want, and have it at your fingertips as fast as your internet provider allows. I absolutely agree in the ownership of game files like Good Old Games does, which all digital platforms need to do. But I think my lament for physical games goes a little bit deeper than that. There's a common through line to all the personal anecdotes I brought up when talking about these physical games. And it's that I remember the people, places, and situations where I got them all. I'm gonna get cheesy for a second, but I really feel that it's true. When I pick up my old copy of Portal 2, I remembered the exact occasion that I got it, who took me, which exact GameStop it was, and what it looked like inside. Even the other things I got that day, like the controller, and where we ate for lunch afterwards. Yes, it's just a box for a video game, but it's a tether that connects me to my experience with it. Even if it just contains a code, it's a physical object that I bought and own and has meaning to me that still resonates over a decade later. Someday in the future, I might pick it up again and get transported back in the same way I did while writing this video. I have a Steam library of over 400 games, and when I scroll through it, this connection's completely absent. I don't just say that to make my point. I definitely have memories with the games themselves. I couldn't tell you if a friend gave it to me as a gift, or maybe a family member, if it was a special occasion, what was going on in my life at the time. Nothing. It makes it feel more disposable, and the emotional connection I have with the piece of media is lessened. This video is specifically about physical PC games, which I promise I'll get back to in a minute, but the message is applicable to any physical piece of media, games for any console, or even movies. You know, again, my love for Star Wars literally began when I saw that mesmerizing box art of the DVDs in Blockbuster, an experience that people don't have anymore. And no, seeing a little image scroll by on Disney Plus isn't the same thing. Console games have a great history of physical media, but I'm especially fascinated with the big box era of PC releases. This is the moniker that physical PC games had in the 90s and early 2000s because of, you guessed it, their big boxes. This is way back when the packaging was kind of a work of art in of itself. I found this cool website called the Big Box Collection, where you can look through an archive of 3D renderings of these old boxes, and you can see for yourself what they used to look like. I particularly love the original Fallout box, as you can see the care that went into theming it, as well as the dense, stylized manuals and little goodies that they would throw in the package. Another thing that PC releases did well was installation. Going back to the Star Wars Best of PC set, the journey to getting your game started continued well after the disc went in. It would pop up a launcher that would be stylized and have Star Wars sound effects as you moused around to select your game, and even once you started the install, you'd be treated to screenshots from what you were about to play, plastered over the old install shield wizard, which is a far cry from just seeing a progress bar fill up on Steam or Origin. It's not that this is a life-ruining problem, but again, the era of physical PC games made developers put an extra level of care and detail into the overall experience of starting your game that's lost today. It goes back to what I said about the feeling of disposability. Boxes needed to look cool in order to catch your eye in the store. Installs took longer off of hard drives, and so the installers needed to be fun to look at while you waited. It totally makes sense that this is gone because it's just not needed anymore, but I don't think it's just nostalgia bias and looking back. It made every game you played feel like an experience, and it just added to that meaningful connection that you would build with them. So ultimately, what's the grand conclusion I want to leave you with in this video? Well, truth be told, I don't really know. Physical console games are barely hanging on by a thread. The PS5 now sells the disc drive separately, and Nintendo, who's usually been the last bastion of physical cartridges, now has this weird game key card thing. Blu-ray's inching closer to the edge, and physical PC games have pretty much long been out the door. Even if we did make a big fuss over it, the technology has changed so much that what could we really achieve? PC cases are now made without disk drives, and even if we all still had them, the games are so massive that the data would take multiple Blu-rays or something new would need to be developed. Console games don't even put the files on the disc anymore, and a lot of collector's editions will come with empty steelbook cases or, once again, codes in the box where a disc used to be. Hell, I mean, another problem, if I had physical copies for all 400 plus games I own on Steam, I'd need a storage unit to contain them. Yes, there's some stragglers like CD Projekt that like to do the PC box copy with maps and manuals and goodies like they did for Cyberpunk, but even those last few are starting to fade away. Limited Run Games is trying to keep it alive, and they do make really good physical products, but the way that they treat them as limited edition drops that you have to rush for before selling out kind of takes advantage of what I wish would be something everyone has access to. I mean, sure, vinyl record made a comeback, but that doesn't have the rapidly evolving technological problems that come with games. So it seems like they're kind of stuck. Even though you might think so from what I've talked about, I'm not a complete doom and gloomer about digital. The upsides are self-evident, and it allows anyone to publish a game online, greatly opening up the world of what you can find and making everything more accessible. And I absolutely think that power should be harnessed. The landscape is simply different now, which isn't necessarily bad. You can play Halo on your PC, find Xbox exclusives on PlayStation, and vice versa. This is a net positive and one of the great trade-offs. But I do think that everything wraps back around again, and as we digitize more and more things, eventually people like me will push for more physical copies, because I stand by my point from earlier. You don't know what you have until it's gone, and people will realize how much they miss getting to see their favorite games displayed on a shelf, remembering the good times they've had with it, and picking it up, feeling it, and putting the disc in. Yes, there's the problem of ownership, but what also matters is the way that you build your connection with that piece of media, and eventually more people will start noticing that that's missing. And yes, I do just want big cool boxes again. So, who knows how it's going to change again down the line, but until it does, you can find me shooting at bots in Battlefront off of my 20-year-old disc, and hopefully I'll find you in the next video. Peace.